Did you get that name changed? I'm trying to find you. Okay. Let me find it. Sade Holly. All right, let me find you again and put that in there. Now I can't find you, but I'm looking. Sade. Oh, there you are. Okay, let me change your name.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just learned how to do this last term. I hope
Yeah,
I got
I
that right.
apologize.
No, did I get that right? Howley?
Yes, SADE. I can't see it, so I don't know.
Sadehowley.
HAW. AW.
HAW.
Yes, thanks.
Okay. HAW. All right, there you go. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So hi everyone. I am Professor Marble. I'm going to be teaching this community class along with Dr. Cupteros, who is joining us today.
Hi, Dr. Cupteros.
And it sounds like some of you know Dr. Cupteros.
I recognize quite a few.
From
Congratulations.
Jerry. That's awesome. That's awesome. So if everybody could turn their cameras on, number one, that'd be great. So Dr. Cupteros is joining our team, our community team this term. She's going to be in class observing the next couple of weeks. But we are going to continue to keep these two sections together with both of us here. Okay, so we talked the other day, and the way we're going to coordinate transitioning Dr. Cupteros into this class is she's going to observe the next couple of weeks 2 and 3. Okay, and then you'll have an exam in week 4. And then starting in week 5, she will be teaching this Friday class, and I'll be in the classroom as well. Okay. And I'll be doing the grading the first couple of weeks. And then as Dr. Cupteros gets oriented and comfortable in the class, she'll be picking up the grade books from exam 1 on. Okay. So we're going to do this together. We're going to tag team this. We both have 2 double sections on Monday and Friday. So I'm going to be teaching the Monday section starting in week 5, and Dr. Cupteros will be teaching it on Fridays. Alrighty? Okay, so that's an FYI. So I am Professor Marble teaching this class. Let's see, my instructor page is updated with my bio. If anybody's interested in reading it. Just a quick bio. Been a nurse for just past 40 years in May. Started out in Navy nursing in the 80s, then went into the hospital setting, was the director of Women's and Children's Services at a big hospital in Denver. And then just finished up 20 plus years in school nursing, which is where I got all of my community and public health experience. I'm completing this, after this term, I'll have completed 4 years with Fortis. Okay, so I've been teaching this community class all along. I love it. I'm exactly where I need to be in my career. I love education, love teaching this class, and I hope you will enjoy this class. I know you guys have had a very long week, but congratulations to making it to the end of week 1. Week 1's always stressful, trying to get acclimated to classes and figuring out calendars and figuring out what's due when are my quizzes, when are my exams. And if there was ever a term to have good organizational skills and time management skills, it's this term. I realize this is a really heavy term. Most of you are probably taking peds and med-surg too. Okay, so those other 2 classes, clinicals labs, Sims. Okay, this class does not. Okay. However, I always say at the beginning of the term, again, if everybody could keep their cameras on, I have so many students, I don't want to keep that going back and forth. So I always say at the beginning of the term, for this class, and we'll talk about how this class operates here in a minute, but if you could just carve out some time for community at the beginning of the week, you guys are a Friday class. So if you carve out some time at community at the beginning of the week, get your community work done, and then move on to your other classes, your bigger classes, your med surg and peds or whatever else you're taking. Okay. There's not a whole lot. I mean, this is a 2-credit class. There's not a lot of work. I mean, it's equivalent to a 2-credit class. If you keep up, you'll be fine. Okay. We'll talk about the structure of the class. So I know that you have already seen the orientation PowerPoint. I get that in your other classes, but we do need to go through it. I'll try and go through it a little bit quicker since you've, I'm sure, already gone through it with other classes, but I do have to go through it. And then we'll go through the course syllabus, and then we'll go into the modules because there's some things I want to point out specifically in the modules for this class. Okay. Back to Adriana and her question. There has been more so than I've ever seen for this particular class, changes in schedules this week. And the emails are just one on top of the other, people switching. So I had the ones that I noticed that were in this class, but switching out of this class, I tried to keep up and send you emails to say, still come to this class on today. And I think I see that a few of you have emailed here. Come to this class today, even if you move into my Monday class or Tuesday class, or you were in Professor Ford's Wednesday class. Okay, or you're moving to her class. I'm glad you're here today because you will you'll get attendance credit for week 1. Okay. So Adriana, for example, is moving, I think, to my Tuesday class, right?
It has not yet been approved by Dean Brown, but she said I was next in line.
Okay.
For
So
an open-
the good news is you're here today because this is
Yeah.
your scheduled class. And if you get moved over the weekend, then you're good for week 1. All
Okay.
right. So for those of you that have moved into my Monday or Tuesday class that are here today, great. You'll get attendance credit. Okay. So does that answer the change class questions? I did go into my rosters this morning. Most of the changes have been made, but there are still some that are not made yet.
Question. What is the cap size for the class? Like the number of students that
25.
you're allowed?
25.
And because we're obviously way over 25.
No, but we have 2 instructors.
Okay, so it's allowed to be double.
Yeah. It's a double
Okay.
section. Yep. As long as we have 2 instructors, which we do. And because
so for
Dr.
the Tuesday class is 25 students?
Yeah, I have 25 students currently in my Tuesday class, and that's a single section. But because Dr. Kapteros is getting transitioning into the class, we are going to keep it as a double section and have both of us here.
Okay, I just wanted to know because.
Yeah, I'm at 25 right now, which is probably why you're on the wait list.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions before we get started? Let me check my checks. I have 5 messages in here. Seda, already add you. Okay. All right, fantastic. All right, so
I did get a email from Dean Brown this morning that said she was going to move me in the Tuesday class, but I haven't gotten the second email confirming. So
okay.
am I okay to come to the Tuesday
Oh yeah,
class?
yeah. Now who's speaking?
Velvet Preston.
Oh, Velvet. Yes, I got an email that you're going to be moving to the Tuesday class, so it's great that you're here today, so you don't miss the week 1. So yes, I did get that email. I don't know if you're on a waiting list or if you haven't received the
No,
confirm.
she told me I was being moved, but she gave it to me last night, late last night, so
Okay.
it hasn't been officially done yet.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't have you on the Tuesday roster yet, but I'm glad you're here today.
Okay.
Okay, so first question, what have you heard about this class? And don't be
It
honest.
was hard.
Okay.
It's hard.
Yes, it's
It's
very
hard.
hard. A lot of work.
A lot
Very-
of writing,
work.
essays, projects.
Okay. I don't think so, but go ahead. Okay, what else? A lot of what else?
Hesse.
Gotta read.
Read. Yep. You have weekly reading assignments. Yep. What else have you heard?
You need the maternity
Pardon me?
book, foundations book, or fund.
Yep. There are 3 books assigned to this class, and you should have already seen them in your syllabus. Okay, we'll go through that when we get to the syllabus. And that was one thing I was going to mention is please make sure you should already have your 3. By the way, there is no PN community book. It doesn't exist. Okay, there's an RN community book, foundations, but there's no PN community book. So you guys have 3 books that should already be uploaded into your e-library. You have your Intro to Maternity and Peds. You have your fundamentals and your med-surg. So that's one thing you need to check this week, okay, is that you have access to all those 3 ebooks. Some of you may have paper copies, and that's fine too. Okay, but you should also, though we use 3 books, which brings me to my first question. Well, has anybody else heard anything else that we haven't mentioned yet?
Just
Okay,
need to really
quite
pay
a few
attention.
feel.
Pardon me?
Need to really pay attention.
Okay. The biggest challenge with this class is your mindset. You need to be thinking community. Okay, we are moving from taking care of clients in the acute care setting into taking care of clients in the community. Okay, that's the biggest mindset shift that you're going to need to make. Okay, which brings me to my question of why do we think that this class is positioned at the end of your program?
Because
help
we've already learned like the other stuff
Keep
to
going.
help this.
And it's like all the other stuff integrated together.
That's
Yeah, it
exactly.
helps us understand how to take it. We already learned how to take care of it in the hospital setting or the clinical setting. It helps us understand how it all began or where it came from.
This is where exactly. Good. Everything's being brought together now. You have all your tools in the toolbox. Okay, because in community nursing, you could potentially be caring for anybody across the entire lifespan. Right? All the way from infants, adolescents, school kids, adults, geriatrics, vulnerable populations. Right? So all the classes and knowledge you've gained along the way from fundamentals, peds, med-surg, pharmacology, Jerry, you have all that information now. Now we're going to take that into the community and care for clients in the community. So as we care for clients in the community, where might that happen? What are some community settings that community nurses work in?
Like public health.
Public health,
Schools.
schools.
I forget what, like the people that go around for like the dentals for the school and the vision.
The local clinics.
Yeah,
There you go.
vision hearing screening teams, immunization nurses. What about correctional nurses?
Yep.
What about hospice nurses? What about home health nurses? What about nurses who work in medical office buildings? What about rehab centers? Dialysis centers? Assisted living? Long-term care? Occupational health? That's the workplace. We'll have a whole section on that. Occupational nurses work in work settings to ensure safety in the workplaces. Environmental nurses that monitor environmental risks in the communities. Where else? That's a lot of different settings, right? If you think about it, just think about driving around in your own zip code. All these people who live in the community, from babies all the way up to the elderly, is a portion
me.
of the, oh, go ahead.
Don't forget the fun ones like resorts and cruise ships.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So community nursing is any kind of healthcare provided in any of the community settings, away from acute care. Okay. So lots of different roles for community nurses. And although you may never work in the community, you stay in acute care, you'll always be communicating and collaborating with community nurses. Right? For example, for me, when I was a school nurse for 20 plus years, I was always collaborating with physicians, parents, hospitals, if the kid was in the ER or if the kid was admitted to the hospital, working with doctors to safely, CDC, exactly, to safely get that child back to school. What would that child need in the school setting to be able to function during the day? Inhalers, EpiPens, seizure medications, diabetic medications. Okay, so community nursing is a big, huge umbrella. Lots fall within it. Lots of people in our communities, every one of our communities, need healthcare. And healthcare is provided in all those settings we just started to talk about. And we'll talk about that during the term. So the biggest, my biggest challenge to you is shifting your mindset of caring for clients in a community setting versus an acute care setting. Okay. Okay, let's get to this PowerPoint and we'll go through it. I'll try and go through it rather quickly, and then we'll get into talking about class and the structure of how the term's going to go. How's that sound? Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. It's going to be fine. I promise you. And in week 12, when we do our term analysis, one of the questions I'm going to ask you all is, how did you enjoy the class and did you learn a lot? And more often than not, students are amazed at how little they knew about public health, community nursing, and then 12 weeks later, how much they learned. So embrace it. It's a different kind of class than your other classes. I get it. And I hear that feedback. Oh, it's so different. Everything's different. Well, it is different. Okay. All right. So let's jump to the PowerPoint here. All right. Can everybody see my screen? All righty. Okay. So this is our welcome orientation. All right. So we all know what online learning is at this point. You're far into your program, right? Need to make sure you have adequate internet access. Okay. I'm very interactive with my students during the term. Okay. Whether we're meeting for tutoring, whether we're meeting for exam reviews, after an exam, before an exam. If students just need to talk about something or if they need help or assistance, I'm very involved with my students throughout the entire term. I will provide you guidance on your assignments, feedback on your assignments, guidance on test taking strategies, guidance on how to be successful in the class. This course does include weekly homework assignments. There are quizzes and exams. This particular course, and we'll go through it in detail, has 3 exams in weeks 4, 7, and 10, 5 quizzes. We'll go through the announcements. I sent you some specifics on the quizzes. 1 HESI, there's 1 try at a HESI. Okay, 1 attempt. Those are the KGAs. And then in addition to that, we have 4 sets of NCLEX questions, 2 case studies, 1 group project, an infectious disease group project, a HESI prep assignment, and a vulnerable populations. And we'll go through all that. Okay, so you are required to complete your coursework every week. And like I said earlier, just chunk out a time to get your community work done and then move on to your med-surg and peds or your other classes. Okay, we have a lot of different campuses. You'll meet students from other Fortis College locations. We have Centerville, Columbus, Norfolk, Richmond, Scranton, Port St. Lucie, and Orange Park. So we've got a lot of different campuses represented in these 2 classes. Okay. There's a couple of areas that have my contact information. Okay, one is my instructor page. Okay, and the second is here in slide, I think this is slide 4. So here's my information. And here's Dean Brown's information. So take note of that information. Okay. I am also the course lead for PN for all the community sections. So our team consists of 3 instructors: Professor Ford, who teaches on Wednesday evening and Friday evening. I teach on Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and then Dr. Kapteros teaches on Monday and Friday. I sent you one of the first announcements I sent was about class etiquette. All right, this is an extension of that. So stating your thoughts in a courteous, positive, and respectful manner. Be mindful how to express humorous or emotional statements. Sometimes these can be misinterpreted. Try and keep your comments relevant to the discussion topic. Be considerate of others' feelings, experiences, and perspectives, using proper language. I don't usually have an issue with etiquette in the class. If I do, I'll never call you out individually, but I may send you a message after class and set up a quick Zoom meeting to talk about any issues that went on. Okay, but I don't typically have issues. Students are always very respectful, at least in the classes that I have. This is a required mandatory Friday class. You're expected to be here at this time every Friday. Okay, it's on a specific day with a specific start time. If you noticed in one of my announcements, and you'll probably get a second announcement from Dean Brown reiterating this class has added on 10 minutes to every class because of the Thanksgiving holiday, because there is no school the Friday after Thanksgiving. Okay, so that means we've added on 10 minutes to every class, and that means you don't have to do any makeup the week of Thanksgiving. So that's good.
Question, does that only have to do with the Friday classes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so not if you get transferred out.
No, just Friday classes. Yep. And Dean Brown will probably be sending a follow-up message with the heading of be mindful of your class time. 10 minutes have been added on. Okay. Now for this class, well, I don't normally do a break and I finish up 10 minutes early. How does that sound to everybody? So it would be from 4 to 5:40 instead of 5:50. Does that sound good to everybody? Does anybody have any issues with that?
Sounds
Pardon me?
Sounds lovely.
Oh, okay. And I'm very mindful of time. I will very rarely keep you over. When I say we're going to be done at 4:40, we'll be done at 4:40. 5:40. Right? So these are mandatory live sessions, just like your campus classes. Discussion questions, project papers, case studies, quizzes, and exams. The nice thing about discussion questions for this class is there's 2 of them. And you're already working on one this week, and the second one is next week. So after week 2, there are no more discussion questions. So the good news is that Wednesday, this past Wednesday, and next Wednesday are your only 2 Wednesday deadlines for those initial posts. Everything else, the rest of the term is due on Sunday. Okay. Discussion board requires initial posting by Wednesday with peer responses by Sunday. I'll probably start going through discussion questions maybe later tonight or tomorrow. And if you've already put in your 2 peer responses, I'll start grading early. Okay. If you haven't put in your peer responses, I'll have to wait until you do them on Sunday. But I try and get at least the first couple of weeks with the discussion questions, try and start early with grading. Okay. If for some reason you did not, for this particular week, if you did not post your initial post on Wednesday, I've already put a message in your grade book that says you missed the initial post. You'll lose those points in the rubric, but I still encourage you to do your 2 peer responses so you can get partial credit. And I know some of you have received that. And so hopefully you take that feedback into week 2 and get your initial discussion posted next Wednesday. But I'm sure some of you have already seen that message in your gradebook post. Okay, standards of student professional conduct. Academic integrity is a big deal. Okay, all incidences of academic dishonesty and violations of academic integrity will be disciplined. Okay, some examples are cheating, plagiarism, unauthorized use of notes or materials, forging or altering assignments, unpermitted collaboration. So that would mean, let's say somebody from your campus has class on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and they provide you quiz questions or answers, whatever. You can't do that. Okay. Allowing others to copy or use work that's not his or her own, providing answers from graded assignments. So I would encourage you, because I've already looked to find out where it is. I would encourage you to read, it's at half of page 5 and the other half of page 6 in your student handbook is the academic integrity section. Okay, and it's a little bit more detailed, but obviously you're responsible for knowing that material. So I would encourage you to go to your student handbook and read that section. Okay. The American Nurses Association has a code of ethics. I would also encourage you to go to their website and read the code of ethics. And what it is nursing as a profession, our ethical values, our obligations, duties, professional ideals, and they represent both us individually as nurses and collectively as a profession. Okay, these are non-negotiable ethical standards that we are bound to practice by. Okay. Some sites that promote cheating. I can tell you, honestly, these sites are being monitored. So don't be on them. Okay. I'm jumping down to the bottom bullet first. Sites like Studocu, Course Hero, Stuvia. And I'm going to add, it's not in here, but I'm going to add, because it's in your student handbook, ChatGPT. Okay, there's a section in your student handbook that talks about the AI tools. Okay, so I was on Studocu last term, I think, and there's lots of my material on there. Now it's old material because I've updated things. But like from 2023, there's stuff on there from my class. I was pretty bummed about that, but it's on there. So people do go on and download or post, and all I can tell you is these sites are being monitored. Okay, don't reference these sites in your work. All right, it's going to turn out to be a 0 for the assignment. Okay, utilizing these sites, whether you're perusing them, posting them, downloading on them, is going to put you at risk for dismissal. And I've seen it happen. It happens every term. All right.
We can use other resources though, like WebMD or
Oh, of course.
Healthline or-
Of course. Of course. Yep. Particularly, Janelle, we're talking about sites that promote cheating.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question. Great question, actually. All right. Late work. We all know the late work policy. It has not changed term to term. Okay. One thing the prior, that's why it's in red. Just let me know if you're going to be late. I already had a couple students send me an email Wednesday. I've got whatever's going on. I'm going to be late submitting my initial post. Great. Thanks for letting me know. No problem. All right. You got to let me know if you're going to be late. Okay. If you don't let me know you're going to be late, then you don't have this weak late policy, right? That's why it's in red with prior approval. This is to encourage you to communicate. Okay. One of my biggest requests from you guys is communication. I don't want to be in your business. I don't need to know everything. But what I do need to know is if there's anything preventing you from being successful in the class, you got to let me know and I can work with you. Aisha, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a question because how I'm here today, I'm in the Friday class
Yep.
and I did my initial post,
Right.
but
I know.
transferred.
I know what you're going to say. So what happens is if you did post your initial discussion question to another section, we will find those. Okay, we'll find them.
Okay, not only that, the second part of my question, because
Okay.
I know like if you repeat a class, they and you use your own work, they try to say it's plagiarism.
Okay. So I've met with several students this week that are repeaters. Okay. And reentries. I don't expect you to start from scratch, but modify your assignments because it will show up as a duplicate. Does that make sense?
Yes, so I posted the same post I posted for the Friday class. Once I got switched to the Tuesday class, I just copied it and posted
Oh
it
yeah,
there.
yeah. That's fine. That's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And I know we're going to get messages over the weekend. Hey, I posted in the Friday class and I moved to Tuesday class. We'll go find that. We'll go find that. If you can copy and paste into your new class, that's perfectly fine. And thank you for doing that. But if you've already posted, we'll find it. We'll find it for you. Okay. Okay, so I'm super flexible. I'm really easy to work with as an instructor. There's certain things I don't have a lot of flexibility with. Okay. Late policy is one of them. This is a standard school policy. All right. So I just ask for proactive, get in front of it, communication. Okay. And then of course, if you've let me know, you've got the 7 days. If it's an emergency, if anything's going on this term that's an emergency, and I know emergencies happen, I'll just tell you up front, get documentation. All right, get documentation of an ER visit or whatever's going on. Get documentation of it, because then I can waive the 10% deduction. Okay. Okay, attendance. You don't need to put your name and your campuses in the chat like we used to. Okay. We get a report after every class. It's an attendance report. And this goes to the registrar after class. And it identifies what time you came into class, when you left, did you leave during the class? It tracks all the times that you were in and out. All right. So that's tracked every class. Okay, sign in with your full names, be on camera the whole time. You can't be driving. I already had this issue earlier the week. You can't be a driver, passenger, or even pulled over sitting in a park. You can't be in a car. And so what I would have to do is ask you to remove yourself and then come back in when you get to a place where you can participate in class. And you're really not supposed to be at work either. Okay. Attendance, as you know, is 15-minute increments. So if you come at 4:01, you're going to get docked 15 minutes. If you come in at 4:02, you're going to get docked 15 minutes. If you come in at 4:16, you're going to get docked 30 minutes. It just goes in 15-minute increments. And though if you're chronically late for class, that's going to add up. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay? So just try and be here on time. Okay? And try and stay. If there's something going on, you're going to be late or you're going to have to leave early, whatever reason, just let me know. Okay? So it's recorded in 15-minute increments. And even if you come at 4:01, the report that I get that's going to go to the registrar is going to see you coming in at 4:01. So I can't fudge that minute. I have to mark it down as 15 minutes because the report won't match Campus View. All right? So just come on time. And then go ahead, Adriana.
I have a question because you just made a statement saying that if we let you know we have to be somewhere, we don't get.
No, you
It's still
will, but it
Oh.
will help me. It will help
Understand.
me understand, when I see you pop off or see you come in late, it will help me. Now, if you're coming in late due to an emergency or something and you have documentation, then we'll send all the documentation you send me, we'll send that off to Dean Brown and she will have a look at that and do whatever she needs to do with your attendance.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it still goes against your time,
Yeah.
but you.
Yeah. And then anyone not posting attendance for 14 days, you're going to automatically get dropped. So that's 2 weeks of classes. Okay. There's no makeup for missed attendance. So for example, let's say you can't come to class today for whatever reason. Okay. I have to mark you absent. However, I always give students who miss class. Go ahead, Adriana. Do you have a question? It says your hand's up. Let me put that down. That's all right. No worries. I will always offer students if they want to come to one of my other classes, Monday or Tuesday, that's fine. I can't mark you as, it won't correct the attendance of missing Friday, but what it will allow you is to hear the content live. Okay, so that's always an offer. And after every class, you're going to get a recording of the class lecture. So if you miss class, you'll be able to review it. I think we already went over this. You do not want to get to 20%. Okay, so if you get at 5%, you're going to get an email through Campus View notifying you. If you get to 10%, we're going to have to meet. If you get to 15%, we're going to have to meet again, and we're going to have to bring your campus in. The level of intervention will depend upon how much you missed. And I can tell you that if you get to 20%, it's going to be a whole letter grade drop at the end of the term. So be mindful of that. Okay. Tips: review work that's due each week, complete the reading assignments each week, attend live sessions, they're mandatory. There's rubrics for all the assignments, so read your rubrics because that's what I grade from. Complete all your assignments on time. Study, complete quiz and exams. We'll talk about quizzes in a minute. I post a lot of announcements because that's really my communication with you. So stay connected and be checking announcements. I would say every couple of days. It says review course announcements weekly. I would do it more frequently than that. Submit all the assignments when they're due. And it's always good to plan ahead, to look at the assignments for next week. Don't procrastinate in this class. Okay. Just not that much. And if you can get it done and move on. Okay. Keep in contact with me. Go ahead, Andrea.
Can we work ahead, Professor?
Okay, so good question. Most assignments except for 3, I have open now. I have your group project, your vulnerable populations assignment due in week 10, and your HESI prep due in week 9. I have those all open now. Excuse me. The rest of the assignments won't open until Monday of the week they're due. Okay, and the reason we do that is because NCLEX case studies, the weeks you have NCLEX and case studies, those are associated with the content we're covering that week. Okay. So the bigger assignments, yes, they're open now. You can start working on them. So yes, you can work ahead on some assignments. But other assignments, no. Make sure you have a reliable internet computer. Like I said, this is a term that you need to have some kind of master organizational skills and calendar to put down all you got going on, because you got a lot going on this term. Try and find an area that's quiet, free of distractions. Read all assignments carefully. You've done all this, or most of you. I haven't checked it in the last couple of days, but there were some students that didn't even take the syllabus quiz or the technology quiz yet, as of Wednesday. You may have all done it between Wednesday and Friday, but know that until you take those 2 quizzes, you can't even access the shell. Okay, so I hope everybody's done that. I would save the syllabus to your desktop. Again, make sure we're down here. Make sure you have the textbooks in your e-library or you have a hard copy. Missing anything? Have any questions or issues with any of that? Please let me know. Come to class prepared to discuss the concepts. Review sessions. We'll talk about that when we get to the announcements. I've already sent out a master exam 1, 2, 3 and HESI review schedule for the whole term. I posted that a couple of days ago. So I post that in week 1 so that you can plan ahead to try and attend a live review, or at least know when they are, around family schedules, kids schedules, work schedules. So you already have that. I will meet with you guys whenever throughout the term, provide you whatever assistance you will need. Okay, you have excellent in your student resource section. You have all the information of how to contact tech support if you're having issues. About tutoring. This is a blurred copy. It'll be clear. I just haven't mastered copying and pasting tables into this. But here's your 3 exams, your HESI, your 5 quizzes, 200 NCLEX questions are divided into 4 weeks, 50 each. They're in weeks 3, 6, 9, and 11. You have your vulnerable populations, your HESI prep. You have 2 case studies. And then under discussion questions, there's 2 discussion questions and 1 group project. That's why it says 3. I'll turn the homework grades on in week 6 and leave them on for week 6 and 7 so you can see how your homework's impacting your overall grade. Okay. Week 8 is drop week, and that syllabus cover sheet that I posted for you in your announcements has the important dates of course start date, drop week, and course end date. Okay. Everybody knows this is a school-wide rule that you have to have at least a 78 at the end of the term with all your KGA assignments. So that's your 3 exams, your HESI, and your 5 quizzes. You have to have a 78 before any of the homework, your 20% of homework is counted. And this is not a class you want to be a homework. You don't want to be a homework fail in any class, but I haven't had any students homework fail. If somebody wouldn't mind muting with the background noise, I'm not sure who it is. I would appreciate that. Okay, 2 devices for exams, quizzes. I'm not worried about the quizzes because they're proctored. You take them right in front of me, in front of the screen. But for exams, you need to have your 2. Okay, 2 devices, your laptop or iPad taking the exam, and then your phone for Zoom. Okay, we'll talk more about that as the exam gets closer. Quizzes. Quizzes are part of KGA and will be completed in class with a proctor. That proctor is myself. Our quizzes, like all the rest of the quizzes, are given at the beginning of class to allow us insight to see what concepts you might be struggling with. And what I'll mention on quizzes is each week you're going to be getting a weekly announcement. I try and do it on Saturdays because I have a Monday class. In that weekly announcement, you'll get a concept recording, which is an introduction to the concepts that are going to be covered this week to help you prepare for a quiz if you have a quiz that week. So you'll have a concept recording, you'll have a PowerPoint, okay? And then there's another attachment that says student notes. What that is, I've just taken the PowerPoint and reformatted it into a notes page so that you can take notes over to the right-hand side and all those lines, okay? And then you have your readings, all right? I do owe you a week 1 concept recording. That hasn't come yet. Yeah, we have a professor that did our week 1 concept recording last term that is no longer with us. So I need to do that concept recording. And I'll be doing it probably tonight, and you'll be getting it tomorrow. I'll probably send it separate than the week 2 announcements since I don't want to confuse you. But the week 2 concept recording and going forward will all be in the same announcement. All right, so you will be getting a week 1 concept recording. Just haven't got there yet. Okay. Oh, let me go back to quizzes. 1 attempt on the quiz, 15 minutes. If anybody has any accommodations, please, you got to let me know. I already asked that in an email twice. I've heard from some students, but if there's anybody else out there that has accommodations, they're not automatically approved every term. I just need your paperwork. I'll get that to Dean Brown and we'll make sure everything looks good. Okay? Quizzes are not made up for any reason. So if you miss a quiz, you're not, and I start the quizzes right at the top of class. All right, so if you miss a quiz, they cannot be made up for any reason, and that's across the board. Exams are the same. Let me go back here. Yeah, exams, there's no difference. There's nothing new with exams. When the exams get uploaded into my faculty page, either next week, I will open up that practice exam for everybody and I'll let you know when it's open. And that's that compatibility check, right? Where make sure that the devices you're going to be using are compatible. Okay. Obviously, if you're taking the exam, and I'll mention this on exam day, there's 1 attempt. If you're having any issues during the exam, you got to stop right there so we can start to problem solve. Okay. And there's my accommodations. Just because you had accommodations last term does not mean we know about it. Exams are during class, so you'll be taking the exams at this time during class. Now, I want to pay attention to this last bullet. I always have students every term that take their exams on campus with proctors. No problem. No problem. People do it for a variety of reasons: acquired environment, stable internet, need to borrow a computer. So I have no problem if you take it on campus. However, you need to give me at least 72 hours notice, okay? That you're going to be taking it on campus, and you need to let me know who your proctor is, okay? Because I have to reach out to that proctor and confirm it, get the dean's approval, and provide that proctor information for them to proctor your exam. If there's a group of you taking it, I need to hear from every student. So if there's 5 students taking the exam on campus, I have to hear from all 5 students, not just 1 student saying, hey, a bunch of us are taking the exam on campus. All right. Any questions about that? Nothing new here. On camera to take exams, showing your ID. Then I ask you to give me a 360. Make sure there's nothing in your ears. please, please have an erasable whiteboard or a screen protector. No paper. Okay? You don't need a calculator. There's an exam, a calculator built into ExamSoft. Okay? Missed exams will be held to the late work policy. If there's an emergency going on, you got to contact me before the exam. Okay? If you just don't show and I don't hear from you, it's going to be a 0. Unless it's been an emergency, then we'll work it out. You'll have a week to take the exam. But if you miss the exam due to personal reasons, you'll have a week to make it up with a 10% deduction. If you miss the exam due to an emergency and you have acceptable documentation, you'll have a week to make it up and there won't be a 10% deduction. Okay? And this is important. I can help you if you contact me before the exam, if whatever's preventing you from being successful. Okay, but once you take the exam, I can't really help. Okay, because you can't retake exams. All right. Obviously, the goal is for everybody to be successful, and it requires effective communication. What are we talking about here? Exams and quizzes. We went through that. HESI. This class has one HESI exam. Okay, they're given on every single campus representing these 2 classes takes their HESI on campus. And I will have a master calendar, usually around week 8 or 9, of when all the campuses have scheduled their community HESI. And I will send that out to everybody. And remember, your HESI is dependent upon campus availability. So you need to plan for your HESI being any day of the week, right? We don't have class in week 11, right? Week 11 is your HESI. I always get that question. There's no class. So you could be taking your HESI, and since I have so many different campuses, many of you will be taking your HESIs on different days. Okay. HESI in this class counts for 20%. I'll be sending these back out. This is the remediation. It hasn't changed since last term. These are the hours required depending on your HESI score, but I'll send that out as we get closer to HESI. And the overall message is contact me if you have any problems or if you would just like some additional help. And that's for the whole term. Homework assignments. Hopefully at this point in the program, you're planning, prioritizing, completing your work, and submitting it. You need to read through that in more detail. You can go back and read that. It's slide 42, but you should already be doing all this. You should already have some sort of an organizational strategy for keeping track of everything going on this term. Here it gives the example of a calendar, the calendar built into the system. But whatever your organizational strategy is. We went through late work, NCLEX. Okay, NCLEX, you have 4 NCLEX assignments. All the categories that you have to select for your questions are preloaded into the weekly module. Okay, so it's already in there. Here's my, and please start your NCLEX assignment through the link in the module. Don't start it from the outside of evolve.com. Because if you do that, you're not going to be able to get that PDF that has to be submitted because I can't accept screenshots. All right, so go through the link in your module. Here's my mantra on NCLEX questions. All right, there's a reason we're doing 200 NCLEX questions. It's to prepare you to take your boards, right? So my expectation, they're each worth 50 points. My expectation is that everybody submits somewhere between 45 and 50. Okay, you can do these NCLEX assignments as much as you want. You can only submit it once, submit your highest score. Okay, so if you do an NCLEX assignment, you get a 20. Look at all that remediation. Look at all the rationales that are given back to you. Reread those, learn what you got wrong, and then retake it. And then keep retaking it until you get an acceptable score. If you're turning in a 20, 30, you probably didn't get a whole lot out of that assignment. If you're turning upwards of 45 to 50, then hopefully you got some good practice with that assignment. I always encourage students to do extra NCLEX questions if they can for practice. I mean, this community class as a whole, your exams, your HESI, they are PEDS focused. They are adult focused, Jerry focused, because we're taking care of all those different clients in the community. So you can go into the study mode of your NCLEX and create your own questions, right? Or create your own batch of questions. So I always encourage students to do extra NCLEX questions. I see that I have 14 messages in the chat. Do you want me to go to those now, or are those questions? Because I have to stop sharing. Well, let's wait till I finish this, and then we'll go to see what I got going in the chat. I told you about we can't accept screenshots. And then when you are selecting your categories, select one batch of 50 questions. Don't do 2 25s or 5 10s. You're not going to get the whole representation of all the categories you selected. All right, one batch of 50. Okay. HESI. We don't have a HESI practice in this class. Grades will transfer your case studies. Your case studies will transfer into the gradebook automatically. Your NCLEX won't. I have to manually enter them, but your case studies will. Okay. The one thing we do not have in this class is CJ Sims. Okay, there's no CJ Sims. We have 2 HESI case studies. Kind of the old way to do it. However, CJ Sims, you have them in other classes. Okay. And so you have access to community CJ Sims if you want to do them. So I always encourage students to practice extra CJ Sims. What does CJ Sims stand for? Clinical Judgment Simulation. And that's what all our classes were in the next gen mode, right? Taking your knowledge and applying clinical judgment. All right, so CJ Sims are your patient care scenarios, and always good to practice. Students that I meet with in week 12 who do real well in HESI, I always ask them, what did you do? And they always say, did extra NCLEX questions through the term, did some adult and pediatric and geriatric CJ Sims. All right, so just because we don't have CJ Sims assigned in this class doesn't mean you can't go into your CJ Sim, Nurse Think, and pull up different scenarios. There's lots of good lots of good patient scenarios. So, rubrics, obviously follow rubrics. APA, I've sent you an announcement with some APA guidelines. Okay. Aisha, do you have a question?
Yes, it was
Mhm.
in reference to the CJ Sims and the
Mhm.
HESI. Will we have case studies on the community HESI?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I'll talk about the HESI prep in a minute. But that community HESI is clinically focused. They're not case studies, but they're clinical questions, clinical patient care questions, clinical judgment. And because we could be caring for anybody across the lifespan. That's why I always suggest do some extra PEDS NCLEX questions or CJ Sims, do some adult health, do some geriatric, do some maternity, extra questions for NCLEX and CJ Sim patient care scenarios. Okay. Before I jump to the syllabus, I just need to look at the chat. I'm confused. How long is this class? Oh, it's not 4 to 5, Haley. It's 4 to 5:50. Okay.
I
All
just
right.
checked my every week of my schedule. It says 4 to 5.
Oh, okay. No, this goes from 4 to 5:50.
I sent the dean email.
Pardon me?
I sent the dean an email.
Okay. let's see, Joelle, for some reason my schedule says 4 to 5. 4 to 5. I won't be able to stay the full length. Okay. All right. And everybody heard me at the beginning that we added an extra 10 minutes on. Okay, let's.
Yeah, my
Oh.
schedule says the same thing.
Okay. All right. Well, it's 4 to 5:50. So I will message Dean Brown. Is everybody's schedule say 4 to 5?
Mine does too.
What campus are you guys from? Are you all from the same campus, maybe?
I'm from Centerville.
We're Westerville.
You're Columbus, Centerville. Okay, so let me just write these campuses down. Centerville, Columbus. Anybody else? Any other campus say 4 to 5? Other than Centerville and,
5:30.
pardon me?
Mine say 5:30.
Yours says 5:30?
Yes.
Okay, what campus are you from, Jenny?
Port St. Lucie.
Port St. Lucie? Okay. All right. Okay, thanks for that. I appreciate it. All right, let's go through the syllabus and show you how that's set up. Okay. All right. Can you guys see this? Yes? No?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I want you to review the student learning outcomes and the course objectives. You can do that on your own. Okay, instructional methods, lecture, discussion, readings, online instruction, homework assignments. Here's your books right here. Okay. Those are your 3 books if anybody needs to double check to make sure you have those books. You do in this class, it does give you your Nurse Think, which is your CJ Sims. We don't need them in this class, but you have access to them through, I believe, Peds, right? I know Peds does CJ Sims. I'm not sure about MedSurge 2. Does MedSurge 2 do CJ Sims? Okay. Okay. There's a couple of things in your reference package I want to point out that have been very helpful to students from past terms. The first one is this calculating with confidence. Okay. If you have issues with math, this is an excellent resource. Okay. I also sent out an announcement with Professor Bogart. She is one of our pediatric instructors. Some of you may know her or have her. She has a YouTube channel. It's in your announcements, and I'll show you that she does a very basic math tutorial. And there's 3 handouts that I put in that announcement that go along with her tutorial. All right, so I would suggest if you have math issues, you pull out this Calculating with Confidence book and also review Professor Bogart's tutoring session. The other resource that students find very helpful is this one. Saunders Comprehensive Review for the NCLEX PN exam. Here you can get a lot of other practice questions. Okay, students use this as well. Okay, and the third one that students use is this one. Strategies for Student Success for Next Gen. On the success on the Next Gen NCLEX, because that's what the NCLEXs are now. They're Next Gen focused. So those are 3 resources that students have told me they've utilized throughout the term. And this doesn't have to be for just this class. This can be helpful for all 3 of your classes. Okay. We've gone through attendance, absenteeism we've gone through, makeup requirements we've gone through. So here's a clearer picture of what we have. 3 unit exams, 1 HESI, 5 quizzes, each quiz is worth 1%, 4 sets of NCLEX, each one total of 5%, so each one is worth 1.25%. Okay, your vulnerable populations project due in week 10 is worth 5%. Your HESI prep due in week 9 is worth 5%. You get 2 case studies, so each is worth 2.5%. And then your 2 discussion questions, group project or pass fail. And that totals your 100%. Talked about the HESI, late work. So I just wanted to go through the course outline real quick and show you how this is set up. Okay, in this left column are the concepts we're going to be covering weekly. Okay, in the middle is what you need to do, all your readings. And when you get your weekly announcements from me on Saturdays, I simply, to be consistent, copy and paste this. So there's no room for error. Okay? And then over here on your right is what is due. Okay, and I'll show you this when we get to the modules, but when it says see Canvas course, who's already figured out where to find it? Where is this? When it says see Canvas course.
In the modules.
Right. It's embedded right in the modules. They're reading pages right in that weekly module. And there's a lot of see Canvas course readings at the beginning of the term, not so much at the end. So I don't want you to miss those. If you're going through that module page by page, you will see the Canvas reading course, the Canvas course for these reading pages. Okay? And I just wanted to show you all the things we're going to be covering in this course. Next week, next Friday, I will cover weeks 1 and 2 content. Okay. And then in week 3, I'll cover week 3 content only. Okay. This week is orientation week, so I have to cover 2 weeks next week. Week 3 will be week 3 only. And then you'll take your exam. So exam 1 is on weeks 1, 2, and 3. So this week, Introduction to Community Nursing, Levels of Healthcare Prevention. We're going to talk a lot about primary, secondary, and tertiary, right? Those are your levels of health prevention. Healthy People 2030. One of your assignments this week is to get on their website and have a look at it. Okay, and that's one of your quiz questions, just so you know, for next week. I'm going to ask you, what is Healthy People 2030 about? What are the overall goals of Healthy People 2030? So that's one of your quiz questions. So look at that site. Okay. And then an introduction to vulnerability. And then I'm going to introduce all these 4 to you in my week 1 concept recording that you're going to get tomorrow. All right. So the weekly concept recordings, if you're preparing for class to take your quizzes, if you review the concept recording, have a look at the PowerPoint, and do your readings, that's where I get all my quiz questions from. Okay? So when students say, oh, you didn't cover it. Yeah, I kind of did. I kind of did in my the concept recording, the PowerPoint, and the readings. That's where I pull my quiz questions from. Right? And of course, quizzes are to assess how prepared you are for class. So if you're doing those 3 things, you're going to be just fine. Okay? So that's week 1. And then next week, we're going to cover school nursing, growth and development, which I believe is chapter 11. Common childhood ailments. Okay? That's your second discussion question if you haven't looked ahead. Okay? That's why we're covering it next week, and that's why your discussion question is next week. Next week, you're going to be picking 3 common childhood ailments, and you're going to be talking about them. What are they? How are they treated? Okay? And I always tell students, write this down. I always tell students, even though I'm not going to cover every common childhood ailment in depth, you have all this reading here, right? You have all these pages, right? You don't have full chapters. To study asthma, you're going to go into intro to your PEDS book, and you're just going to read these 7 pages about asthma, these 2 pages about eczema. Okay. I always tell students on exam 1, because in exam 1, there's a lot of common childhood ailment questions. The best place, and one of the students pointed this out to me, 3 terms ago. She goes, I reviewed all the common childhood ailments from the discussion thread, right? Because between all these students, somebody's going to pick one of these, right? And so I thought that was an awesome tip. The student said, I reviewed all my common childhood ailments for the exam by reading the threads of discussion posts because everybody had to pick 3. So that's just an FYI going forward. Let's see, we're going to cover family nursing, family health risks next week. And then to finish out our first third of the class for exam 1, weeks 3 and 4, we start to cover vulnerable populations. If you think about the community, we are taking care of lots of vulnerable populations. All right, so we're going to we introduced it in week 1, and then we're going to get a little bit more detail week 3 and 4. Okay, so week 3, we're going to talk about the migrants, the rural populations, homelessness, poverty. Okay, and then week 4, we're going to get into additional vulnerable populations, pregnant adolescents. We'll talk about LGBTQ. We'll talk about issues with mental illness and caring for those clients in the community. And lots of issues with alcohol abuse, tobacco abuse, other drug issues, and how we care for those clients in the community. Week 5, we'll talk about hospice and palliative care. Pardon me, death and dying, faith and spirituality, and ethics. Week 6, we'll start to talk about some specific areas of community health. What's occupational health? What's environmental health? Barriers to learning and reinforcing health education. A lot of what we do in the community is teaching, education and teaching. So we'll talk about barriers to learning, reinforcing health education. Week 7, we'll talk about infectious disease prevention and control. Very important in the community settings with outbreaks, with pandemics, right? We'll talk about some specific infectious diseases that are common in the community, HIV, TB, STDs. We'll do a lecture on bioterrorism and disaster. Community nurses play a very important role with disaster preparedness. Week 8, we start to talk about home care, pardon me, home care, community resources, case management. A lot of community clients are case managed because they're so complex. And then in that week, we talk about the care of the complex chronic illnesses in the community. That's a major part of community nursing care is complex chronic illnesses. A lot of people with complex chronic illnesses, from kids, but especially the elderly. And then we'll finish up with human abuse and violence. We'll talk about cultural influences in nursing. Okay, so we cover a lot. Okay. Okay, let me check the chat before we go into the modules. Some of you don't have the PEDS book. Why don't you are you taking PEDS this term? Are there people that don't have the PEDS book? Are you taking PEDS this term?
She figured it out. Emily showed her.
Oh, okay. Emily, I've noticed my camera's frozen. Okay. Yeah, if for some reason after today you figure out you don't have those books, please let me know. We got to get you those books. All right, let's go into the module. Oh, no, let's go into announcements first. Because I posted a lot. Okay, there's your online etiquette expectations. Here's a more extended, detailed announcement about academic integrity in submitting your work. So please have a look at that. There's your math resource. There's Professor Bogart's link to her YouTube and the 3 handouts. And even if you don't go to her YouTube, still look at these worksheets because these are cheat sheets for simple math calculations. Okay? And the math on these exams is very simple. Very simple math. Okay. APA, you should be submitting and referencing your material in APA format. How to be successful on discussion boards. Your cover sheet I talked about, that provides you the start date, the drop date, and the end date of the course. And it also has my office hour. I always have to put down an office hour I always just standard across the board do it 1 hour before my classes. So if you want to meet during that hour, let me know. However, my message is I'm always available to you guys. All right. So I just have to list an office hour. But if you want to meet, I won't come on that hour before unless I hear from you. You want to meet, and it's no problem. I have no problem doing it. But my message is I'm always available. I meet with students early in the morning. I meet with students late at night, weekends. I can. I'm not opposed to meeting with you on the weekends at all. Okay. Oh, here's the quizzes. Okay, even though you can look in your modules about when they are, I gave you the very specifics. So quiz 1 in week 2, we'll cover contents 1 and 2. Quiz 2, week 3, we'll cover on and on. Okay, so there's your specific weeks that the quizzes are, even though you can see that in your syllabus and in the modules, but I want to give you the content. The reason why we have to cover, we do 1 and 2 together is because we do orientation week. The reason why we cover 4 and 5 together is because week 4 we have an exam. And the reason why we have to cover 7 and 8 together is because we have an exam in week 7. Make sense? And again, if you're reviewing the content recording, the PowerPoint and doing your readings, you'll be fine. There's your extended class time. Goes to 5:50. Okay, the orientation PowerPoint that we just went through, you have a copy of it. It's right here. So if you need to go back and review anything, I refer back to this all term. If students have questions about being late or attendance, I'll always say go back and review slides 9 and 10 in your orientation PowerPoint. Okay, this is the kind of announcement you'll get every week. Like I said, I try my best to do them on Saturdays because I have Monday and Tuesday classes. Talks about what's coming up this week. What do you have to do? I copy and paste the readings. I copy and paste the concepts. If you're reading your syllabus, it's going to look the same. We talk about what we're going to do. And then all my attachments. So you got your PowerPoint, your student notes, which is the PowerPoint. It's just formatted, like I said, formatted differently, and a notes page to give you lines to take notes. I did give you, I like to provide the study guide on the first week of the content coverage. So I like to provide you the study guides in week 1 because it covers weeks 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll give you exam 2 study guide in week 4, and I'll give you exam 3 study guide in week 7. Okay. And I don't know if you've taken a look at it yet. Basically what I do is list out the concepts that are covered in the weeks, and I leave the boxes empty. Okay, because this is what I hope you would take notes on during class or transfer your notes onto here. What did you learn about Introduction to Community Nursing? When you get to the reviews, right, so there's your week 1 concepts, week 2 concepts, and these concepts are the same that are listed in the syllabus. When you get to the review, I have these filled out. I'll say, review this, review this, review this. I just don't do it now, okay, because I want you to do the work. I want you to complete what was important that you learned with each of these concepts that we went through in class. And then when you come to the review, and I have more specifics in there, you can compare notes. Does that make sense? Okay, how do I get out of here? There we go. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have to review? So you get those announcements every week. Like I said, the one thing you'll have also in there is your concept recording. So I apologize for being tardy on week 1, but okay, here's your review schedule. So I've provided you a copy of all the exam reviews. Okay, myself and Professor Ford. Okay, exam 1's in yellow, 2's in green, 3, 4. Okay,
Thank
here's
you for highlighting it.
you're welcome. And here's our Zooms. Okay, Dr. Kapteros is going to sit in on our exam 1 reviews, and if she would like to add an exam 2, 3, and HESI review, we'll determine that. But for right now, you just have the two of us doing them. But you will also get the recordings. Okay, you will have the recordings of all the exam reviews that are done. So if you can't get to one live, you'll have the recordings. Okay. And then you guys already saw the opportunity to change your schedule. Any questions on the announcements? Okay. Let me go mention a couple of things I want to mention with the modules. Your Canvas readings are always going to be under activities, okay? And these are your embedded. Well, hang on, let me go back. I want to point out something. Okay, when you go through the module, you're going to have your weekly reading. Actually, on your very first page of your module, you're going to have the concepts we're covering. Okay, and I copy and paste this right onto the weekly announcement. Okay, so you've got your concepts, your readings. Here's what I want to point out. Okay, it gives you your readings. So you had chapter 1 from your fundamentals book, 1 page from your med-surg book, and then your Canvas reading. If you have a whole chapter assigned to you in your weekly readings, you will get a PowerPoint. Okay, but if you only have a page or two, like next week when you have all those common childhood ailments and have all those 3-4 pages in each chapter, you're not going to get PowerPoints for all those chapters. There's no need to. You're only responsible for those pages. So there's no need to confuse you and give you a whole PowerPoint. Does that make sense? But if you have a whole chapter, you will get a PowerPoint. Okay? Does that make sense? And then if it says Canvas courses, you just keep scrolling through your module, and here's your 4 Canvas readings. Your intro to community nursing, the primary, secondary, tertiary, levels of prevention. Next one is your Healthy People 2030. So they're on and on. So there's where all your Canvas readings are from. Okay. Yes, I mean, Andrea, go.
Yes, I noticed that your for week 1 reading, the PowerPoint is only 11 slides you have there?
They're what?
Only 11 for the PowerPoint reading for week 1.
That I sent or that's assigned to you in the module? The that's a good point. Okay, so the PowerPoint that's sent to you that's from the book, remember a PowerPoint is a snapshot, right? A PowerPoint is a snapshot of that chapter. I send you a PowerPoint in our announcements listing all that we're going to cover. So the PowerPoint that I send you in the announcement is all the concepts that we're going to cover. It's a class outline. That's how our class is going to go. The PowerPoints you get for each chapter in the book, if you're assigned a whole chapter, is specific to that chapter. My personal PowerPoint is an outline of everything we're going to cover during class. Does that make sense? Good question. Andrea, does that make sense?
Andrea? Yes, it makes sense.
Okay.
Professor,
All right.
thank you.
All right.
I'm just looking for it. I'm just looking for it.
Yeah. Yeah. The PowerPoints that are given you on the reading page are specifically from that chapter assigned for you to read. The PowerPoints I send in my weekly announcements is our outline of what we're going to cover through the class. It lists all the concepts. Okay. Couple of things I want to point out to you. Okay. First, I want you to go to week 7. You got to go to the week that they're due. This is your group project. Okay. I have it open now, even though you don't have groups, so you don't have to start working on it. After I get my final rosters, which will hopefully be by the end of next week, and I know everybody's campus and all that, I'll assign groups. I'll assign you a group and I'll assign you an infectious disease. I try and keep consistent with the groups being from the same campus. So that in the event that you're all on campus at the same time and you want to work on it, you can work on it together at campus. Doesn't always work out 100%. So I may not have the right number of students per campus, but I do my best. Okay. So you'll get your groups in week 3. And the reason why I've opened it now is if you want to start working on it, work on it. Okay. So somebody's got to take the lead and send out an email. Hi, we have a group. We're a group A. We've got this infectious disease. Who wants to do what? And if you want to look at the rubric ahead of time, it's a group project. So somebody will do the, yes, Alexandra.
How many people are typically to a group?
It depends on the class size, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. Okay, does that help? Just depends. Somebody will do introduction, history. Somebody will do who's affected. And this rubric, look at the rubric. It tells you specifically what to put in that section. Somebody will do symptoms pathology, cure treatments for the disease. How is the person's daily life affected by it? Okay, so that's your group project. So don't worry about that right now. And you can look through it if you want, but it won't be due till week 7. But the reason why I send the groups out in week 3 is if you want to get going on it, I'll have groups start working on it in week 3 and submit it just to knock it off their to-do list. Okay. Okay, so that's one project that I want to mention. The next one is in let's talk about week 10 first. Week 10 is your vulnerable populations. It's an extension of your discussion question you just did. You got to go to week 10 to see it. Okay? So if you want to continue to expand your research on whatever vulnerable population you pick for your discussion question, that's fine. I give you a list of vulnerable populations to choose from. You can go beyond this. 2 things that aren't on here that some students have done in the past are veterans, correctional or prisoners, inmates. Okay, so this is an individual project due in week 10. It's a PowerPoint. Okay, it consists of 8 to 10 slides. And this rubric couldn't be any more specific. Okay, so this is, and I always mention this, and I open this now in case you want to start working on it. Because once you get past week 8 in this class, week 9 is very busy, week 10 is very busy, and week 11 is very busy. So if you want to get going on working on this early, that's great. Okay, so essentially what you're doing is picking a vulnerable population in your zip code, not nationwide, in your zip code. And you will lose points on the rubric if you don't do it specific to your neighborhood. So pick something you're interested in researching. Vulnerable population you're interested in researching. It tells you what you should be describing about the population. What are the health risks of this population? Again, the rubric is very detailed. What are the resources available? And remember, this is a PowerPoint individual project. What are the resources available? If you identify 8 to 10 resources available, you get the points. If you identify 2, you're down here. Okay, service gap. What does service gap mean? What is not available? Describe one resource that is currently not available that you think should be, that would improve outcomes for this population. Okay, so that's a project due in week 10, but open now. And then the last one I want to mention, because I want you to save this today, if you're on your computer, or if you're in the module, is your HESI prep assignment. Okay, this is in week 9. This is due in week 9. That's why it's in week 9. I would like for you to go and download this document. And I would like for you to put it on your desktop. Because this is a work in, it's not due till week 9, but this is a work in progress document that if you start working on it next week, when we start presenting content, you can be filling it out. Okay, what's this? Amanda's shaking her head. Amanda, why don't you, Amanda, why don't you give us the skinny on the HESI prep assignment? I hate to put you on the spot, but go ahead, go.
Don't wait till the last minute to do it because it is a pain in the butt if you wait till the last minute. You'll be sitting there for hours upon hours doing it. If I
Yeah.
was anybody in this class, do it as you're going through every single week of the concepts. Because I did that mistake one term, and yeah, it took me a while. It takes time, definitely does. But it's a very good thing to use as in for HESI because a lot of the stuff that they talk about, like the anthrax, that was definitely something that I seen on it. So I would definitely take the time and do it and look at it early and just keep it fresh in your mind.
Thank you, Amanda. Let me go off. Let me continue what Amanda is saying. This is going to end up being your study guide for your HESI. Okay? You are creating your own study guide. I am giving you a jump start because all of the topics on the left, all the way through, are asked about on the HESI. I don't know what the questions are because I don't put together the HESI. HESIs are done like your boards. They come from a big bank. Okay? But I know the topics that are asked about. And I know that because I look at all of your remediation. I look at all the remediation packets and I can see the topics they're asking about. Okay, that does change from term to term, but not by much. Okay, usually there's 6, 8, maybe new questions, 6, 8 old questions, but the new questions are still within the concepts that we cover. Okay, so maybe instead of asking about diabetes type 1, maybe there's a question about diabetes type 2. I don't know. All right. However, as Amanda said, everything on the left remains a topic that there is a HESI question about. So let's look at this. Now, as we go through each week, I always tell students, if you can do it every week, great. That's why I wanted to save it to your desktop. So by the time you get to week 9, all you do is submit it. Right, Amanda? You just submit it. It's done. If you wait till week 9 to start this, it is a tedious, because you have to remember, what week did we cover that? A couple of things I want to mention about this. I am not going to cover every single box. And here's why. There's a lot of med surg on here. This gives you a good, like, let's get to, okay, so we're in home. Where are we? Health promotion and teaching. Okay, I'm not going to cover everything. A lot of this is covered in your med surg classes, your peds classes. It was covered in fundamentals. This is when I say we're bringing everything together. All right, so lipid screening. There's a question asked about lipid screening. You probably have learned what we lipid screen for in med surg. I don't cover that. All right, so as you go through each topic, if we're not going to be covering it, you have your 3 books. You have your Intro to Maternity Peds, you have your Med Surg book, and you have your Fundamentals book. All this information can be found in any one of those 3 books and class. So if it's not covered in class, it's not because I'm avoiding it, it's because I don't cover this, I don't cover Med Surg. So like we will talk about elder health assessments, but scoliosis, that's in your common childhood ailments. We talk about 2030. Primary prevention, we're going to talk about. This is in seatbelt safety is in your growth and development chapter. Adolescent health teaching, it's all there. It's just how you want to take the time to proactively do this. There's a few things like NG tube feedings, home care. I'm not going to cover that, but it's in your books. Okay. Well, geriatrics, home nutrition. Like I said, a lot of this, it's not that I'm not covering it, but you're going to have to pull from other sources to complete this as well. Does that make sense? Since it is very, Amanda, HESI is very med surg focused, is it not? Of course it is.
Absolutely.
You need your skills to care for clients in the community.
HESI is basically just everything in one. Jerry, maternity, adolescent, pregnancy. It's everything.
Exactly. Well, think about it. You're going to be caring for every kind of client that you do in the acute care setting. You're going to be caring for those clients in the home setting. Yes, it will look different, but it's going to require the same skills, right? Just a different approach. Okay. So I know it looks tedious. I know it does, but I promise you, the first question I ask in week 12 is, did your HESI prep assignment help prepare you for HESI? And overwhelmingly, it's, oh my gosh, yes. I wish I had spent more time on it. I wish I started filling it out in week 2 when you told us to. I waited too long because you're going to get out of this what you put into it. Okay? So if you look at the directions, there's no right or wrong way to do this. As long as you are using your nursing process thinking. Okay, you're thinking ADPI. I don't want every box to have a ADPIE. It's not necessary. But I want you to think nursing process. So anthrax incubation. What do we want to know about that? I don't know. Let's think nursing process. If we did an assessment in our assessment phase, what might somebody who's exposed to anthrax present with? What's the treatment? What's the outcome? Level 1, 2, 3 phases of disaster. There's a question about that. Well, you should probably know what is a level 1, 2, and 3. And I know we don't cover disaster till week 8, but if you want to go ahead and look at week 8 and look at the readings already, it's all there. You don't have to wait till we cover it. What's disaster planning? What do we want to know about disaster planning? Disaster communication. What do we want to know? So you need to, like I said, there's no right or wrong verbiage. Everybody does it differently, but you do need to have an understanding of each of these topics for the question on HESI. When we get to the HESI review in week 10, I think I do it. We don't rehash this whole document. My HESI review is, what kind of question do we think we're going to get asked? That's what we talk about. What do we think? What's a good clinical judgment question about anthrax? What's a good clinical judgment question about SARS? Okay. So again, I know it looks like a long, tedious assignment, but it's actually, you're creating your own study guide. Okay. So I would save that to your desktop this week. I mean, nothing, you don't have to do anything with it this week, but next week, when we cover 2 weeks of content, and maybe by week 3, when we've covered the first 3 weeks, maybe you jump back to that and fill out what you can. But this would be a document I would encourage you to start working on early so that by week 9, you just submit it. Okay. And a lot of students do submit, a lot of students do work on it early on. And those are the ones that I meet with in week 12 that said, oh my gosh, taking my time doing it along the way helped prepare me for HESI. So, okay, we have 2 minutes to spare. Being mindful of your break time, of our 10 minutes. How'd we do? I know everybody's tired. I'm tired too. Did this help to go through everything like this? Questions?
I do
Yep.
have a question. I overheard like students on my campus.
Oh boy.
No. So I just want to confirm for our discussions on when we reply, do we have to cite?
I mean,
No.
well, I take that back. if you say, I think an additional resource for this population would be this because of this, and you've got it from you've got your thinking and you're reading from somewhere, you do have to cite it.
Okay, but if we're just responding and giving our opinion,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
because I was like, wait, how do we even,
No.
okay.
No, but
thank you.
a lot of students do use cite their resources for their responses, because if you read in the discussion question, it will say, submit 2 peer responses. It's recommended that you, I think for this discussion question, it says, it's recommended that you add an additional resource that might be helpful for this population. So if you
Okay.
pick up an
I just wanted
additional
to-
yeah. Good question. Great question. Any other questions? Oh, Asia, you have your hand up. Do you have your hand up? No. Okay. Well, thanks for sitting through this. I know it's late Friday afternoon. Believe it or not, there's still a section tonight at 8:30. So, if nobody has any more questions, general questions that will benefit the whole group, I'll stay on after for any specific questions. And I do have several emails out to students, so if you haven't responded to me, would you please respond to me? I hope everybody has a really good weekend. It was nice to meet everybody. And then we will see you next Friday. But remember, between now and next Friday, reach out to me if you need anything. If you have any questions, if something comes up tonight, oh, she said this during class, oh, I need some clarification, shoot me an email. Okay? I hope everybody has a good weekend, and congratulations for getting through week 1. Great job. All right?
Thank
Nice to meet everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Professor,
welcome.
can I speak to you after class?